America's national parks and national monuments protect some of the most breathtaking and remote landscapes on Earth. But beyond the beauty lies the danger of a vast wilderness, unpredictable weather, and the persistent mystery of what can happen when someone disappears without a trace. The National Park Service's Investigative Services branch works quietly and effectively behind the scenes, tracking crimes, accidents, and missing persons within these wild places. With so many visitors and so much untamed ground to cover, their work is essential. In this video, we'll explore a series of cold cases, stories of people who entered the parks and never came home. If you have any information about any of these cases, please contact the National Park Service Investigative Services branch tip line at 888-653-0009. Armand Johnson was born in 1961 in Seattle, Washington. A passionate and curious individual, Armand earned a bachelor's degree in sports medicine before making the life-changing decision to move to Hawaii in 1984. He lived on both the Kona and Hilo sides of the Big Island, where he worked as a massage therapist at local resorts, often drawing on his charismatic and kind personality. In addition to his work, Armand hosted a reggae music radio show throughout the 1980s. Those who knew Armand, friends, family, and colleagues alike, described him as a kind and gentle soul, someone who exuded kindness and had the ability to make others feel valued and supported. But despite his vibrant personality, Armand's life was not without struggle and challenge. He battled addiction over the years, though he was never alone as he was supported and loved by his community. On the afternoon of April 13, 2005, Armand's life came to a violent and tragic end. Around 5 p.m., a park visitor stumbled upon Armand's body in a remote area of the Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, just 100 yards away from the roadway near Hawaiian Ocean View Estates. An autopsy revealed that the cause of Armand's death was a gunshot wound to his upper back and neck. The manner of his death was described as an execution, a ruthless act that left Armand's loved ones and law enforcement struggling to understand who could have wanted to harm such a beloved individual. Despite the outpouring of love and support from Armand's loved ones, no answers have emerged over the years to reveal what happened to Armand. The case remains unresolved, with many unanswered questions lingering in the air. A reward is currently offered for any information that could lead to the identification and conviction of those responsible for his death, but Armand's killer or killers remain unknown, and his tragic death continues to haunt those who loved him. Dikran Najian was born on March 9, 1952, in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Dikran was of Armenian descent, and in 1972 he was a bright and ambitious medical student at Cambridge University in England. Dikran was a budding doctor with a love for photography and travel. It was this love for photography and travel that played an important role in Dikran's decision to travel to the United States in the summer of 1972. He planned to visit several locations, including Yosemite National Park. He arrived at Curry Village, a rustic lodging location in the national park, where he rented a cabin, intending to stay for a few days before moving on to his next destination, Florida. On July 24, 1972, witnesses recalled seeing Dikran at the Curry Village front desk, requesting directions to Half Dome, one of the park's most famous and challenging hiking locations. This was the last confirmed sighting of him. When Dikran failed to return, park rangers searched his cabin. His personal belongings were located inside, signaling that he had every intention of returning. One item was missing, his 35mm Pentax camera. This suggested that he may have taken it with him that day, perhaps to capture photos of Yosemite during his hike. Search teams combed the trails, cliffs, and backcountry for days. Rangers, volunteers, and even helicopters were used in the search. Yet no sign of Dikran was located. No gear, no remains. At the time of his disappearance, Dikran was 5 feet 11 inches tall, weighing between 150 and 182 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. He has a dark mole on the back of his right hand near his wrist. When last seen, he was wearing a red, white, and blue short-sleeved polo shirt with the word VOTE printed on it, light blue bell-bottom pants, boots with beige canvas tops, and a white metal Omega Seamaster watch. Dikran carried sunglasses with square lenses and brown rims and spoke with a distinct British accent. More than 50 years later, the disappearance of Dikran remains one of Yosemite's haunting unresolved mysteries. In the summer of 1981, 14-year-old Stacey Ann Aras set out on what was meant to be an unforgettable adventure. Born on September 29, 1966, Stacey lived in Saratoga, California with her parents, George Aras III and Carol Diane Newstead Aras. In July of 1981, Stacey joined her father on a multi-day mule trip through the beautiful landscape of Yosemite National Park. On July 17th, the group of about 10 riders reached Sunrise High Sierra Camp, a remote site surrounded by grassy meadows and high peaks. After unpacking and cleaning up from the long ride, Stacy decided that she wanted to stretch her legs. She set off on a short hike, about 1.5 miles, towards Sunrise Lakes, accompanied by an older man from the riding group. Not long into the hike, the man accompanying Stacy grew tired and stopped to rest. Stacy continued a little further ahead. A guide from the group nearby glanced over and caught sight of her one last time, standing on a rock about 50 yards off the trail. Search teams scoured the park for days, on foot and by helicopter. Not a single trace of Stacy was ever found. Over time, theories surfaced. Some wondered if she had been the victim of foul play, while others speculated that she might have run away, homesick for her boyfriend. But there was no evidence to support any of these theories. As one park ranger said the following year, quote, "She just seemed to have disappeared from the face of the earth," unquote. At the time that she vanished, Stacy was 5 foot 5 inches tall and weighed 120 pounds, with shoulder-length blonde hair. Stacy was last seen wearing a white windbreaker, a white jersey blouse with lace trim, striped shorts, gray hiking boots, a gold anklet, and a retainer on her upper teeth. More than 4 decades later, the mystery of Stacy Ann Artis' disappearance remains unresolved. In the summer of 1988, Timothy "Tim" Barnes, a 24-year-old from Cucamonga, California, set out on what was reportedly his first trip to Yosemite National Park. Born on September 21, 1963, Timothy was tall, 6 foot 4 and about 180 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes, sometimes wearing his facial hair in the style of a mustache or a goatee. On the morning of July 5th, Timothy left the area around Tenaya Lakes, planning to take a day hike from Murphy Creek Trailhead to Polly Domes Lakes, several miles away. Timothy was expected to return by 4:30 p.m. on that afternoon, but when the sun set over the park and Timothy still hadn't returned, concern began to grow. By the next morning, his friends reported him missing to park rangers. An intensive search followed. Rangers, volunteers, and trained dogs combed the forested valleys of the park while helicopters swept the area from above. Despite days of efforts, not a single trace of Timothy was found. At the time of his disappearance, Timothy was wearing a white t-shirt with a red circle and a slash through the letter F, gray sweatpants, white sneakers, and sunglasses with brown frames. Distinctive physical features that could make him easier to recognize include a blue discoloration on his upper lip, a wart on the right side of his nose, grayish teeth, and an orthopedic pin in his left ankle. Decades later, the mystery of Timothy's whereabouts endures. Despite exhaustive searches, no sign of Timothy Barnes has ever surfaced and his fate is unknown. In 1998, David Paul Morrison, born August 6, 1969, was living in San Francisco, California, working as a chef and spending his free time exploring the outdoors. An experienced hiker, David was comfortable navigating rugged terrain, though even seasoned hikers can face unexpected dangers in the wilderness. On May 25, 1998, David joined a group of friends in Little Yosemite Valley. At some point, David decided to hike alone toward Half Dome. That would be the last time anyone saw him. When David failed to return, his girlfriend reported him missing, setting off an extensive search that would sweep through the valley and surrounding trails. Searchers discovered footprints consistent with what David was wearing that day, but they did not lead to David. Concerns were heightened by several factors. David has a history of mental health diagnoses for which he regularly took medication, and despite his hiking experience, he was ill-equipped for the cold and wet weather that had settled over the park. Even the searchers struggled against the elements, complicating efforts to find him. At the time of his disappearance, David was 5 feet 9 inches tall, 150 pounds, with brown hair, brown eyes, and a scar on the bridge of his nose. David had been seen wearing a gray UC Santa Cruz sweatshirt, a white t-shirt, black sweatpants, Nike Air sneakers, and carrying a black, green, and yellow Osprey fanny pack containing his credit card. Despite extensive searches and ongoing concern, David Morrison's disappearance remains unresolved. In 2000, Kieran Burke excitedly planned a trip to San Francisco, California. The Dublin, Ireland resident, born on July 6, 1955, was an adventurous spirit with a love for hiking, so he included Yosemite National Park in his itinerary. Kieran aimed to explore the park fully during a stay at a nearby hotel from April 4th to April 6th. On April 5th, Kieran was last seen heading out on a day hike in the Yosemite Valley near Curry Village. No one knew exactly where Kieran intended to go, and it wasn't until his hotel reservation ended that anyone realized he hadn't returned. Kieran's rental car remained at Curry Village, but Kieran was nowhere to be found. Search efforts were extensive. Rangers and volunteers combed trails and cliff areas assisted by helicopters. Kieran's family also joined the search, asking park visitors from April 4th to April 6th to check their photographs, hoping that Kieran might appear in the background of someone's snapshot, an effort to trace his movements before he disappeared. At the time, Kieran was 6 feet tall with black, ear-length hair and blue eyes. Kieran may have been wearing a bomber jacket and might have been carrying a camera when he vanished. Despite the exhaustive search efforts, Kieran Burke's disappearance remains unresolved. In 2000, Ruthann Rupert, a 49-year-old experienced hiker from Florida, traveled to Yosemite National Park. Ruthann had climbed some of the world's highest peaks, and Yosemite's rugged beauty was a natural draw for someone like her who thrived in the wilderness. On August 14th, Ruthann set out on a solo hike. She did not inform anyone of her intended route, which would immediately hamper search efforts when Ruthann failed to return. Fellow campers recalled that she expressed interest in Indian Canyon and the Snow Creek Trail, east of Yosemite Falls, but her exact route was unknown. Ruthann's family described their growing fears as hours turned into days with no word from her. She had planned to visit friends in California and hike in Colorado before returning to Florida on August 31st, but she never fulfilled those plans. Her rental car was later found in the Curry Village parking lot, packed with her belongings. Additional concern came from her medical history, as Ruthann had an infection around her prosthetic eye, which had prevented her from hiking with a group she had planned to join. Her family described her as talkative and extroverted, raising the possibility that someone may have encountered her and that they may remember her. Physically, Ruthann was 5 feet 5 inches tall, 140 pounds with brown hair and brown eyes. Ruthann has a prosthetic eye. Rangers, dog teams, and helicopters scoured the park's trails and drainage areas, but no sign of Ruthann was found until 2008, when her backpack was discovered in the Fireplace Creek drainage, consistent with the route from Yosemite Falls to Foresta. Aside from the backpack, nothing else has been recovered, and Ruthann Rupert's disappearance remains unresolved. In September 2002, 66-year-old Walter H. Reinhardt, a retired Marine and former sheriff's deputy from Oro Valley, Arizona, embarked on an extended hiking trip along the West Coast. A physically active man, Walter had stayed fit through regular hiking and workouts. Before arriving in Yosemite National Park, Walter had explored Glacier National Park and the Cascades. On September 19th, Walter was last seen at the White Wolf Trailhead in Yosemite, apparently setting out for a day hike. He never returned, and despite extensive searches of the surrounding wilderness, including trails, ridges, and remote areas, no sign of Walter has ever been found. His vehicle was located at the trailhead on September 30th, abandoned. At the time of his disappearance, Walter was 5 feet 8 inches tall, weighed approximately 145 pounds, and was believed to be wearing a gray felt alpine hat, leather hiking shoes, and carrying a large fanny pack. It is presumed that Walter may have become lost or injured while in the wilderness, but the circumstances of his disappearance remain unclear. Michael Allen Fisery was born on March 30, 1954. An experienced outdoorsman and member of the Sierra Club, Michael was an avid hiker, backpacker, and cyclist, known for maintaining a high level of physical fitness. In addition to his passion for outdoor activities, he had an interest in Japanese animation and collected comic books. On June 15, 2005, Michael set out on a solo hiking trip in Yosemite National Park. His intended route included Rancheria Falls, Telltale Mountain, Lake Vernon, Beehive, and then to return to Hetch Hetchy. Michael was last seen on the trail to Telltale Valley near the Hetch Hetchy Reservoir. Michael was reported missing on June 21st, 2 days after his wilderness permit expired. Extensive search efforts were initiated, involving search dogs, helicopters, and ground teams. The public information officer for Yosemite noted that the search area was particularly remote, approximately 12 miles from the nearest road. Michael's backpack was found near the snow line on Telltale Mountain. Some items were missing from the pack, including a map, camera, and water bottle. Rangers suggested that the location of the backpack could indicate that Michael altered his route due to the snow conditions. No other clues regarding his whereabouts were discovered, despite extensive search of the area surrounding where the backpack was found. Search efforts were complicated by late-season snow and rain, which caused higher than expected runoff and made certain areas difficult or impossible to access. At the time of his disappearance, Michael was 5 feet 10 inches tall, weighed 165 pounds, with shoulder-length gray hair, green eyes, and a beard and mustache. He is believed to have been wearing a faded blue or gray t-shirt with the sleeves ripped off, olive green or khaki shorts, and a torn pink or red scarf. It is speculated that Michael may have become lost or injured during his hike, and the severe weather, including a snowstorm reported the day after he was last seen, may have played a role. Michael's disappearance remains unresolved. George Penka was born on February 22, 1981. In 2011, at 30 years old, he was living in Hawthorne. On June 17, 2011, George went to Yosemite National Park for a hiking trip with several members from his church. The group planned to take a day hike on the Upper Yosemite Falls Trail. It wasn't until the group reached the top of the trail that the members realized George was missing. Initially, they believed he may have chosen to descend the trail ahead of them, but he was not found on their way back down. George was reported missing at 9 p.m. that same day. A full-scale search was launched the next day, involving around 105 personnel. Despite extensive efforts, no trace of George was located during the search. At the time of his disappearance, George was 5 feet 10 inches tall, weighed around 240 pounds, had brown hair and blue eyes. He was last seen wearing gray sweatpants, a black t-shirt or tank top, and running shoes. George Panka's disappearance remains unresolved. It is believed that he may have become lost or injured during the hike, though no definitive evidence has been found. Peter Fancher Jackson was born on June 14, 1942. An experienced hiker, Peter regularly enjoyed moderate and strenuous multi-mile hikes and remained in good physical condition even at the age of 74 in 2016. On September 17, 2016, Peter sent a text message to his son, letting him know that he was on his way to Yosemite National Park. Upon arrival at the park, Peter camped at White Wolf Campground, where he paid fees for his spot through September 21st. Peter likely left his campsite for a day hike, but he never returned. His vehicle remained at the campsite, as did the possessions he had left there. Extensive searches were conducted following Peter's disappearance, but no immediate evidence of his whereabouts was located. It was not until August of 2019 that Peter's backpack was located in the area of Ackerson Meadow and Aspen Valley, located on the west side of Yosemite National Park. Beyond the backpack, no other evidence of Peter's whereabouts has been found. At the time of his disappearance, Peter was 5 feet 10 inches tall, weighed 155 pounds, had blue eyes, gray hair, and a short beard. His disappearance remains unresolved. Samuel Boelke was born on August 10, 1998, to Kirsten and Kenneth, who later divorced in 2005. Samuel was diagnosed with sensory integration disorder, now known as sensory processing disorder, a condition affecting how the brain processes, understands, and responds to information coming from the senses, such as sight, hearing, taste, and touch. News reports from the time indicate that Samuel was sensitive to loud noises, bright lights, and strangers. On October 14, 2006, Samuel and his father went for a day hike at Crater Lake National Park. During the hike, Samuel became focused on collecting yellow pumice stones, which he called gold. When it was time to head back to where they were staying, near Diamond Lake, Samuel hesitated, wanting to continue searching for stones. Samuel ran up a slope of pumice. His father followed, though he was slowed by the difficulty of moving through the pumice, and he lost sight of Samuel. His father attempted to locate Samuel but was unsuccessful. He flagged down a car for assistance and a search was immediately initiated. The search was extensive, involving helicopters, search dogs, and numerous personnel who fanned out across the area. Searchers examined under logs and in small sheltered areas, believing that Samuel could be hiding in one of those areas for protection from the cold nighttime temperatures. A snowstorm struck the area on the first day of the search, limiting the effectiveness of helicopters and complicating the ground operations of the search. Despite these conditions and below freezing nighttime temperatures, rescuers held hope that Samuel could still be alive, and they did not believe it was likely that he had fallen into the lake. However, despite extensive efforts over multiple days, no evidence of Samuel's whereabouts were found. At the time of his disappearance, Samuel was 4 feet 8 inches tall, weighed 85 pounds with light brown hair and brown eyes. He was last seen wearing a long-sleeved black and striped shirt, cargo pants, red suede shoes, and a blue winter coat. He has a mole under his right ear and a mole on the left side of his throat. As of September 2025, search efforts for Samuel have been renewed. His mother, Kirsten, has since founded Autism Anchoring Dogs, an organization that pairs dogs with children on the autism spectrum to provide both physical and emotional support. Samuel Boelke remains missing, and his disappearance is unresolved. Robert Bobby Bizup was born on July 4, 1948, to Joseph and Connie Bizup. Bobby was deaf, and he wore a hearing aid. He lived in the Denver area with his family. On August 15, 1958, when Bobby was 10 years old, he was visiting Camp St. Malo in Colorado. Camp St. Malo served as a Catholic youth camp located near Rocky Mountains National Park. Bobby was last seen when he and several other boys from the camp went fishing. Extensive searches were conducted by law enforcement, military personnel, and National Park Service staff. Despite these efforts, Bobby was not found until July 1959, nearly a year later. His remains were discovered by counselors from Camp St. Malo in a ravine within the park boundaries, approximately 3 miles from the camp. Identification was made through scraps of clothing, bones, and a portion of a hearing aid determined to belong to a child. While Bobby's disappearance was initially considered a case of a child lost in the wilderness, later information has raised questions about the circumstances of his death. 3 counselors from Camp St. Malo were later found to have abused children when they became priests. In the 2020s, a Denver man turned over a skull to law enforcement that may belong to Bobby. The skull had been inherited from his father, Dr. Joseph McCloskey, a prominent member of the Catholic Church and a close associate of Father Richard Heister, the priest who oversaw Camp St. Malo at the time of Bobby's disappearance. The man who inherited the skull indicated that he had been told that it might belong to a boy who had disappeared from the camp. This new information suggests that Bobby's death may have been more than an accident. The case remains open with the National Park Service Investigative Services Branch and is officially classified as a suspicious death. James Pruitt was 70 years old in 2019. On February 22nd of that year, he arrived in the Bear Lake area of Rocky Mountain National Park. James was an experienced hiker and had visited the park during the winter previously, suggesting he was accustomed to snowy and cold conditions. During that week, he had hiked multiple times in the Bear Lake area. James was last heard from by his family around 10 a.m. on February 28th, shortly after visiting a Safeway grocery store in Estes Park. James parked his vehicle at the Glacier Gorge trailhead and set off for a hike to an unknown location. His vehicle remained at the trailhead and was discovered on March 3rd, showing no indication that he had returned. Family members indicated that James had no intention of staying overnight in the park, thus the car having been left at the location raised red flags. The National Park Service initiated extensive search efforts, but the searches were hampered by dangerous winter weather conditions. Additional searches were made as weather conditions improved, but no evidence of James's whereabouts had been found. At the time of his disappearance, James was 5 feet 6 inches tall, weighed 150 pounds, and had blue eyes and blonde-gray hair. He was likely wearing a dark blue jacket, red or orange beanie hat, blue jeans, and carrying a small camera bag containing a Nikon Coolpix 900 camera. James Pruitt's disappearance remains unresolved. Daniel Lynn Campbell was born on April 15, 1948. In 1991, he was living in Big Timber, Montana, located in Sweetgrass County. Daniel regularly traveled with his dog, an Australian Shepherd. On April 4, 1991, Daniel and his dog were dropped off at the Hell Roaring Creek trailhead in Yellowstone National Park. Reports suggest that Daniel may have intended to collect elk antlers, an activity that is prohibited within the national park. His apparent goal was to hike through to Jardine, Montana, but he and his dog never arrived. Daniel was reported missing on April 8th. Search efforts were launched in Yellowstone, but late-season snowstorms made locating Daniel particularly difficult. Searchers did discover 2 camps near where Daniel had disappeared. These camps were stocked with food, tobacco, and tea, though the authorities could not confirm whether the camps belonged to Daniel or to other individuals who had prepared the backcountry for travel. Foul play was not ruled out. While weather conditions were severe, Daniel's family has expressed belief that he may have been murdered. At the time of his disappearance, Daniel was 5 feet 7 inches tall, weighed approximately 130 pounds, had brown hair, green eyes, and a noticeable gap between his teeth. He also had a scar on his chin and another on his upper right arm. No sign of Daniel has been found, and the cause of his disappearance remains unknown. Adam Clayton Lyle Jones was born on May 24, 1987, and lived in Gulf Breeze, Florida. On March 31, 2011, Adam was last seen by his family in Gulf Breeze. He left his home around noon, driving west in a light blue Oldsmobile Delta 88 that had Florida plates, no hubcaps, and a dark blue vinyl top. The only item he reportedly brought with him was his laptop. Adam was not reported missing until May, after a park ranger located his vehicle abandoned at the South Rim Visitor Center of Grand Canyon National Park. His family was then contacted and filed a missing person report. The investigators later determined that Adam had made debit card purchases in New Orleans and Texas, consistent with him having been traveling west. An itinerary found in his vehicle included several cities, such as Denver and several California cities. Adam did not have a cell phone at the time of his disappearance. At the time, Adam was approximately 5 feet 7 inches tall to 5 feet 8 inches tall, weighed about 145 pounds, had brown hair and blue eyes. He may have been wearing a t-shirt, jeans, and sneakers. Adam Jones' disappearance remains unresolved. Drake Kramer was born on September 30th, 1993. In 2015, he was studying geology at University of Texas at San Antonio and working at a Lowe's store. Drake loved nature and frequently spent time outdoors. In late January 2015, Drake informed his family that he had left Texas, driven to California, and then driven to the Grand Canyon. He had visited the Grand Canyon before, but this trip felt abrupt. On January 31st, Drake checked into the Bright Angel Lodge within Grand Canyon National Park. He checked out the following day and was reported missing by a relative on February 2nd. The last communication from Drake was a text to his family members in which he expressed that he loved everybody and that he, quote, needed to be back with Mother Earth and set his soul free, unquote. His family reported that he had seemed in good spirits prior to this message, leaving them uncertain as to the meaning of the message and concerned for Drake's safety. Search efforts began immediately, with several days of intensive searching taking place. The search was eventually modified to a limited but continuous search. At the time of his disappearance, Drake was 5 feet 6 inches to 5 feet 8 inches tall, weighed 135 to 145 pounds, had brown hair and blue eyes. Drake was reportedly seen wearing a gray-green sweatshirt, blue jeans, a dark-colored bandana or baseball cap with a pattern, and black Adidas shoes. Drake Kramer's whereabouts remain unknown. Morgan Heimer was 22 years old in 2015. He was from Cody, Wyoming, and was studying English at the University of Wyoming. Morgan was a strong swimmer and a very avid outdoorsman. In June 2015, Morgan was working as a tour guide on an 8-day commercial whitewater rafting trip on the Colorado River in Grand Canyon National Park. On June 2nd, while guiding a group near Pumpkin Springs, Morgan disappeared. He and another guide had taken the group to a low cliff and were walking back to the boats. Morgan was speaking with the other guide about taking some time off when the guide stepped away to speak to a client. When he looked back, Morgan was gone. Initially, colleagues assumed Morgan could have walked off to take a break. It wasn't until Morgan failed to show up to dinner that the group started to search for him. Upon being unable to find him, they reported him missing. Searchers responded to the area and searched the river for Morgan. No signs of him were found in the river, nor were any found along the shoreline. At the time of his disappearance, Morgan was 6 feet tall, weighed about 175 pounds, had blonde hair and blue eyes. He was reportedly wearing a blue plaid long-sleeve shirt, bright-colored shorts, Choco flip-flops, a maroon Nike baseball cap, a dark-colored Astrolife jacket, and possibly a cross necklace. He may have also been carrying a purple water bottle. Morgan's disappearance remains unresolved. Floyd Roberts III was 52 years old in 2016 and resided in Florida. He joined a multi-day backpacking trip in Grand Canyon National Park, which was planned to take participants through a remote area of the western Grand Canyon. The group's itinerary was for a 9-day hike, which would exit through Separation Canyon. On June 17th, the first day of the hiking trip, a group member noticed that Floyd was missing near Kelly Tanks, located in the far western portion of Grand Canyon National Park. Temperatures in the area at that time of year could exceed 100 degrees Fahrenheit, which raised concerns for Floyd's safety and survival. Search efforts were initiated immediately, including helicopter and ground teams, but no evidence of Floyd's whereabouts was found. At the time of his disappearance, Floyd was 5 feet 11 inches tall, weighed 170 pounds, had gray-brown hair and brown eyes. He has a scar on his upper rear hamstring and a small mole located beside his right nostril. Floyd was reportedly seen wearing a red long-sleeve shirt, blue jeans, multicolored Nike Free sneakers, sunglasses with white frames and orange lenses. He was carrying a large blue low alpine contour backpack. Floyd's disappearance remains unresolved. Jianghun Wan was 45 years old in 2017 and resided in Los Angeles, California. On September 17, 2017, his white Toyota Camry was found parked at Moran Park near the south rim of Grand Canyon National Park. His vehicle was also sighted near New Hants Trailhead. The reason for Jianghun's visit to the Grand Canyon is unknown. Reports indicated that he had no stated plans to be in the area and had not communicated his intentions to anyone. Extensive searches were conducted in the surrounding areas, but no evidence was found to indicate his whereabouts. At the time of his disappearance, Jianghun was 5 feet 7 inches tall, weighed about 121 pounds, had black hair and brown eyes. Jianghun's disappearance remains unresolved. Paul Braxton Fugate was born on September 2, 1938, in New York. As an adult, he worked for the National Park Service, though his more laid-back approach occasionally caused conflict with supervisors, even resulting in a termination and subsequent rehiring. By 1980, Paul was serving as a park ranger at Chiricahua National Monument in southeastern Arizona, a protected area known for its balanced rocks, pinnacles, and columns, located about 50 miles from the border of the United States and Mexico. On January 13th, Paul went for a hike from the visitor center to the Fairway Ranch area. He left around 2 p.m. and instructed a seasonal employee to start closing up the visitor center on their own if he hadn't returned by 4:30 p.m. At the time, Paul was wearing his Park Service uniform, which was green and gray in color. Despite extensive searches and an increased reward, Paul has never been located. A statement made by a man named Dick Horton under hypnosis suggested that he may have seen Paul sitting beside two men in a green pickup truck with a camper shell and Arizona plates. Dick described Paul as appearing, quote, dejected, unquote, in the vehicle. Composites based on this account were distributed in both the United States and Mexico, but no matches were reported. Law enforcement has not ruled out foul play, and Paul's wife, Dottie, has indicated that she believes he is no longer alive. The case remains open with the National Park Service Investigative Services Branch, and many questions about his disappearance remain unanswered. At the time of his disappearance, Paul was 5 feet 5 inches tall to 5 feet 10 inches tall and weighed approximately 160 pounds to 170 pounds. He had brown hair, which he had styled in a ponytail, and he had his facial hair styled in a beard and mustache. Paul had blue eyes, and he wore rather thick glasses. Dennis Lloyd Martin was born on June 20, 1962 in Knoxville, Tennessee, to William and Violet Martin. He had 3 siblings, Douglas, Sarah, and Michael. On June 14, 1969, Dennis was spending Father's Day weekend in Great Smoky Mountains National Park with his father, grandfather, and other family members. The family was in the area of Spence Field, a grassy area surrounded by vegetation that is located on the border of Tennessee and North Carolina. While playing, the kids planned to sneak up on William and his father. Dennis separated from the group, wearing a bright red shirt, as the other kids sent him on his own, feeling that his bright shirt would give them away. When Dennis did not reappear, his family began searching and contacted authorities. The initial days of the search were impacted by heavy rain, which affected roads, trails, and possibly washed away evidence of Dennis's movements after his disappearance. The searches were massive and extensive, with 1,400 people involved in the search in addition to helicopters. Despite these efforts and a reward offered by Dennis's family, no trace of Dennis was found, and the search officially concluded on September 13, 1969. At the time that he disappeared, Dennis was 7 years old, 4 feet 1 inches tall, and weighed 55 pounds. He has dark eyes, dark brown wavy hair, and was last seen wearing a red t-shirt, green pants, and low-cut Oxford-style shoes. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children has produced an age-progressed image showing how Dennis might appear as an adult. His disappearance remains unresolved. Teresa Trini Gibson was born on August 17, 1960 in Tennessee. In 1976, she was a high school student at Bearden High School in Knoxville. On October 8th of that year, Teresa joined around 40 of her classmates on a field trip to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. The plan was to hike nearly 2 miles from Clingman's Dome to Andrews Bald and return via the Forney Ridge Trail. From the onset of the trip, some potential issues arose. First, despite the large number of students, there was only one teacher supervising. In addition, it was unclear if the school actually knew the itinerary of the group. Teresa hiked with various groups of students during the trip, though she primarily walked with her brother's friend, Robert Simpson. At about 1:30 p.m., the group reached Andrews Bald for lunch. Robert later reported that Teresa had asked for his jacket before separating from him. Teresa was reported to have been with another group of students at about 3 p.m., around a half mile from Clingman's Dome. She was last seen leaving the trail in an area with large amounts of undergrowth and relatively steep drop-offs. She reportedly left the trail because she had spotted something. Search efforts were hampered due to poor weather. Still, searchers with bloodhounds and German shepherds scoured the surrounding area for Teresa. Some of the dogs tracked Teresa's scent along a road near Newfound Gap, but that was where the scent tracking ended. Some have theorized that she could have been taken from the location by vehicle. Teresa's family suspected foul play, particularly involving a classmate named Kelvin Bowman, who had previously threatened her and had been shot in the foot by her mother during a prior incident. Other theories include that Teresa may have hidden in Klingman's Dome Observatory, which was not fully searched, or that she may have attempted to run away. At the time of her disappearance, Teresa was 5 feet 3 inches tall, weighed 115 pounds, had brown hair and brown eyes. She was last seen wearing a brown plaid jacket, a blue and white striped sweater, blue jeans, and blue Adidas shoes. Despite multiple searches, Teresa has never been found, and no substantial evidence has been uncovered to determine what happened to her. Thelma Pauline McAllister Melton was born on February 26, 1923 in Alabama. She had a history of depression and was treated with Valium in the late 1970s. In 1981, she was coping with the death of her mother and managed chronic health issues including high blood pressure. Thelma was active and community-oriented, volunteering regularly even during vacations. In September 1981, Thelma and her husband Bob Melton and 2 friends were visiting Great Smoky Mountains National Park. On September 25th, Thelma did not start her day as she normally did by serving meals to senior citizens. She did take a hike later in the day at around 4 p.m. While hiking with her friends on the Deep Creek Trail, Thelma suddenly sped up and walked away, disappearing over a hill. Her friends assumed that she would return to the campground, but she never arrived. She was reported missing to park rangers around 6 p.m., about 2 hours after she was last seen. Searches for Thelma continued until October 5, 1981, but no trace of Thelma was found. Despite the passage of time, there have been no answers as to Thelma's whereabouts. At the time of her disappearance, Thelma was 5 feet 11 inches tall, had auburn hair and brown eyes, and wore eyeglasses. She was dressed in a pink and white striped sleeveless blouse, tan pants, tan low-cut shoes that were size 8.5, and had a cracked left sole, a diamond-studded white and gold wristwatch, and a wedding band. She was also a regular smoker of about 2 packs of Virginia Slims per day. Thelma's disappearance remains unresolved. Derek Joseph Luking was born on May 13, 1987 in Northern Virginia. He graduated from Johnson University and worked as an aide in the behavioral health field. He had an interest in survival and was a fan of survival reality TV shows. On the morning of March 17, 2012, Derek checked out of a motel in Cherokee, North Carolina, which was the last confirmed sighting of him. Several hours later, his car was found at the Newfound Gap parking area in Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Inside the car were Derek's cell phone and a note on the car dashboard that read, "Don't follow me." No witnesses reported seeing Derek enter the park. Derek's family had already been looking for him as he had failed to show up for work earlier. Investigators later found that Derek had purchased multiple survival-related items including maps of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, a sleeping bag, a tent, an axe, a knife sharpener, a military survival manual, a Coleman compass and thermometer, black parachute cord, a headlamp, a pocket knife, granola bars, a pouch for an iPod, and a Bear Grylls tool pack which had a flashlight, multi-tool, and a fire starter. Curiously, most of these items were left in his vehicle. At the time of his disappearance, Derek was 5 feet 11 inches tall, weighed 220 pounds, had green eyes, brown hair, and a short beard. He was last seen wearing black track pants and white tennis shoes, and may have had camouflage rain gear in his possession and a small, darkened color day pack. No trace of Derek has ever been found, and his disappearance remains unresolved.